A staggering 93% of jobs are being impacted by AI right now, shifting $4.5 trillion away from human labor. Welcome to BuzzLeaps, your daily explainer. The immediate threat isn't a robot stealing your desk, it's a permanent, invisible hiring freeze. Are you ready to learn the dark truth that will change how you see AI, the future, and BuzzLeaps forever? Okay, let's jump right into this. For years, we've been fed a very specific narrative about artificial intelligence, right? We pictured this slow, totally manageable transition where machines just gradually picked up our boring, tedious tasks. But looking at a massive influx of new data from top research firms, it turns out we got it wrong. We've completely misunderstood both the timeline and the actual nature of the AI threat. We are currently caught right in the middle of a hidden threat and a completely silent transformation.
Let's look at Section 1, the accelerated AI timeline. To really grasp what we're up against, we have to look at the sheer, terrifying velocity of this disruption. According to Cognizant's latest labor analysis, experts previously thought this massive workforce shakeup would hit us around 2032. Well, scratch that. That timeline has been entirely shredded. This disruption violently crashed into our reality right now, in 2026. That is a full 6 years ahead of schedule. The tech is just hitting more jobs, way faster, and much harder than anyone ever anticipated.
Just look at how fast our safe havens are vanishing, literally overnight. The data shows that the percentage of jobs with low AI exposure plummeted from 31% down to a tiny 7%. At the same time, highly exposed roles absolutely skyrocketed from 0 to 30%. Guys, this isn't just a minor bump in automation. We're looking at a seismic collapse of job security across the board.
Which brings us to Section 2. The Agentic era begins.
You see, this is no longer just theoretical modeling. The big tech giants are fundamentally restructuring their entire companies right now to make room for AI. We have officially crossed over into the Agentic AI era. Now, an Agentic AI-first operating model means AI isn't just a basic tool anymore. It's not just summarizing your meetings or spell-checking emails. Intelligent AI agents are fully participating in every single workflow. They're working right alongside humans and each other, actively executing complex multi-step processes from start to finish.
Want to see how fast this adoption is happening? Look at the cybersecurity giant Cloudflare. They watched their internal AI usage multiply sixfold in just 3 months. Let that sink in. That kind of explosive internal adoption completely rewires how a company operates, and it triggers a massive structural pivot away from traditional human roles.
And that led to a pretty chilling reality check. In an internal email, Cloudflare's founders announced they were cutting 20% of their workforce. That's over 1,100 people. But here's the truly wild part. They did this while beating their revenue expectations. There was no financial crisis here. This wasn't about cost-cutting or individual performance. It was 100% about completely redesigning their teams to operate efficiently in this new agentic AI era.
That takes us to Section 3, slower hiring, not firing.
Because while that Cloudflare story is super dramatic, the real horror for the broader job market isn't necessarily immediate mass layoffs everywhere. It's actually a silent, invisible ceiling on job creation. There's a new labor market report by Anthropic that introduces this really critical metric called observed exposure. In the past, we focused on theoretical AI ability, what an AI could hypothetically do. But observed exposure tracks what AI is actually doing in everyday workflows right now. It cuts through the hype and measures the real, practical application on the ground. So if you're a computer programmer, a customer service rep, or a financial analyst, you're experiencing the absolute highest observed exposure right now. While physical, on-site jobs are relatively safe from real-world automation for the moment, these core knowledge worker roles, they are watching AI actively absorb their daily tasks right in front of them.
And this leads us to the most terrifying reality of the current job market. You might not get fired today, but as AI keeps absorbing these tasks, companies simply won't need to hire for your role ever again. We're staring down a future defined by a permanent hiring freeze and drastically slower career growth in knowledge-based roles. The jobs aren't being violently killed off all at once. They're just slowly being suffocated out of existence.
Moving on to Section 4, the cognitive overload.
So what exactly happens to the humans who do manage to keep their jobs in this bizarre new landscape? Well, according to BCG data, over half, we're talking 50% to 55% of all US jobs are going to be radically reshaped in literally the next 2 to 3 years. For a lot of you, this means you'll technically keep your title, but the expectations for how you work and what you produce totally, fundamentally altered.
You're no longer going to be the one executing the standard day-to-day tasks.
Instead, it'll be like managing a swarm of AI agents. You are going to be the knowledgeable human in the loop. Your new job description essentially becomes acting as the critical fail-safe. Preventing unexpected AI bottlenecks, catching mistakes, and making sure your company's actual expertise doesn't get completely diluted by machine outputs.
But here's the catch, and it's a massive one. Your cognitive load is going to intensify like crazy. Because AI is stripping away all the easy, repetitive, structured execution stuff, everything left over is going to be high-level problem-solving and complex decision-making. You're going to be running a continuous, exhausting gauntlet of intense cognitive engagement, all day, every single day.
Let's hit our final section. Section 5. Adapt or become obsolete.
To survive this cognitive gauntlet and actually thrive in the agentic AI era, just leaning on your current skill set is simply not an option anymore. Employers globally are recognizing this huge shift. They realize that human nuance is essentially the final frontier. Specific skills like ethical judgment, high-stakes customer service, and nuanced team management, these are the last remaining moats against automation. These are the domains where AI still heavily struggles and where your actual human value is currently locked up.
Because of this, the modern worker has to completely rebrand themselves as a fast learner. The future of work absolutely belongs to people who display extreme learning agility. You're going to be constantly called upon to master entirely new workflows, new tools, and new systems on the fly, as AI integration just accelerates week by week.
And if we zoom way out to the macroeconomic level, the reports all point to a very stark possibility: the total decline of the traditional full-time role. Future teams are probably going to be this super flexible mix of human, machine, and freelance talent. We are hurtling toward a reality where traditional full-time employment drops off rapidly, and that could leave millions of workers falling through the cracks, totally unable to earn a family-sustaining wage.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought to wrap up today's explainer. If human labor is permanently displaced by AI agents and job creation in the knowledge sectors practically freezes up entirely, how will society survive? When the jobs simply stop coming back, will universal basic income transform from this radical economic theory into our only viable safety net in the 2030s? It is a question we all need to start taking very, very seriously. Thanks for joining me today, and keep learning.